Good afternoon. Can I get a show of hands of how many of your machines are already infected with financial malware? Or how many of you that don't know your machine is already infected? So the anti-phishing work group reported that 40% of all PCs in the United States are already infected by malware, and the vast majority of those are designed to circumvent multi-factor authentication, look like the legitimate victim's machine, and steal funds. Organized criminals are incredibly successful, both with malware, with phishing, with vishing, with smishing, with twishing, and they are continuing to innovate. Though there is an advantage that you do all have, which is in data. Well, us here at Guardian Analytics, we help financial institutions leverage this valuable data to identify anomalies. And this behavioral analytics approach has been so successful that the agencies of the FFIEC have adopted it for their minimum requirement to meet the guidance. So let's take a look and see what this looks like. And what I'm showing you here is the dashboard of our system, FraudMap, using real data from another credit union. This is online banking data. And this particular financial institution has almost 10,000 members that access online banking. And there's a lot of information here about risk to help me understand what's happening in online banking. But let's go ahead and just get right into some alerts. And specifically, let's look at a point in time that this credit union asked us to look at some alerts when we processed some of their historic data. This is before they were running FraudMap. And here's what we have is 10 accounts. So there's 10 alerts out of 10,000 sessions on a given day. So this is a big differentiator from all the rules-based products on the market. Guardian Analytics pioneered behavioral analytics. We've got 300 customers today using our technology. And part of the reason why it's so successful is we don't make any assumptions of what fraud looks like. So each one of these alerts is based on changes in behavior. Like, for example, the red underline here for this account holder out of Germany. Well, Germany isn't an inherently risky place for online banking, but it's unusual for this member. Just like for this member, they're doing a money transfer, and it's unusual. So let's take a look, and we just double-click on this, and what it does is it brings us to the timeline of the entire history of this particular member's online behavior. Before we get into the alert, let's just orient you to the screen that you're looking at here. So what I'm pointing to is the very first time that this individual has ever logged into online banking. And you'll notice that I've got the cursor on the overall risk score in the top row. That is low risk, it's green. And it's based on all the behavior you find below. For example, that they were viewing account history, they were logged in from Culpeper, Virginia using Verizon as their provider. I have information about the machine that they're using. In this case, it's Windows XP with Firefox 3.5. I also have not only the time of day that they typically do online banking, but also the frequency. So every time this person logs in, it's a new session here in this column. And we continue to learn what they do online. Sometimes they do bill pay. Sometimes they use different machines. So there's some variety in the different types of machines that they use. FraudMap is constantly evaluating risk. And you notice there's no alerts on this account until we get out here. 6 months later, we get our first alert on this account. And if I look at the activity details, what I see is that they are studying this account. There's six summary views and almost a dozen history views. And if I go back just one session, you'll notice that they only looked at history once. That's more typical of their behavior. But then they log out, no transaction. Then they log in a little while longer, and this time when they log in, there is a money transfer request of $96,000, followed by viewing a check image. Why would they view a check image? Lots of information can be gathered in a check image. They haven't done this behavior in a long time. I haven't seen a view check image or a transfer to another member in months. This is real confirmed fraud. This is man-in-the-browser fraud that is designed to avoid detection because there is no IP address from Eastern Europe. There's nothing here to detect, but with behavioral analytics, we're finding those deviations in behavior and bringing it to your attention, not just the transaction, but well before the transaction, which is your best defense at being able to stop fraud. Now that is our product for online behavior. Let's take a look at FraudMap for wire. So FraudMap for wire is looking at transactions. We go deep into the transactions and we look at all of the wires, not just the ones that are originated online, but offline, faxed wire transfer, and so on. So here's data from another one of our clients that has, you can see all the outbound wires they're doing. FraudMap Wire is a real-time product with real-time decisioning that you set up the criteria of which wires you want to release, and then based on risk thresholds, FraudMap will automatically hold those wires from releasing if they represent high risk for someone to investigate. And let's take a look at that. So let's look at some alerts here that FraudMap held for, this is in September 13th. There's 2 wires that we're holding. Their status is hold, they're both outbound wires. And at this point, what I can do is say, well, let's take a look at this top one and figure out why did we generate an alert? Because remember, this is not a rules-based system. This is based on changes in an individual's behavior. And what I can see here is I've got a lot of low-risk transactions. Each one of these is a wire. If I scroll down, I can see that they do a number of outbound wires and occasionally an inbound, and they're mostly international until we get to here where they're using the SWIFT network instead of the normal just international network. And FraudMap automatically tells me what's going on. I've got a suspected mule involved. The beneficiary account matches a suspected mule. This is an unusual transfer amount of $12,000 compared to what we've seen in the past. And it's a new or infrequently used debit credit transaction, and so on. This was confirmed fraud. FraudMap can hold it for me. I can do my investigation, or I can come right back to the system here and simply decide, am I going to go ahead and release this wire, or in this case, cancel this wire. So this is the power of FraudMap. This doesn't require any rules or administration. It runs all on its own. We're here at the event, and we look forward to meeting you.
Well, excellent job. Thank you. A couple questions for you. What online banking systems do you currently have this installed with?
Yeah, it's a great question. We support over 20 online banking platforms today with pre-built integrations so that you have a turnkey solution. All of our systems are hosted at our secure hosted facility. So that means minimal IT work and no need to bring in databases or hardware or deal with any of that. The system learns on its own, it adapts to behavior. So this is a low friction, low cost to own.
Great. And how long does it take FraudMap to learn the behaviors to detect fraud?
Sure, there's 2 models that work here. There's the behavior model that we showed you, but in the background there's also a threat model. And the threat model is based on fraud data that we gather across our 15 million online accounts that we're protecting across almost 300 financial institutions. And we're finding and identifying new threats every single day, and we're populating that information every hour back into the threat model so that even a first-time session where there is no history, we're able to generate an alert if it's matching behavior that we've seen in another member account.
Okay. And what wire processors do you work with?
Today we support the FunTech suite of wire products. We also have other wire platform providers that we're in discussion with. And then finally, we also have an API. We have a published standard API where we can integrate with virtually any wire platform, including homegrown wire platforms.
Okay, well, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.